All right, everybody, welcome to Class 5, Part 2 of Expressive Color. And we just covered a whole lot about the different elements that make a painting successful or impactful. And you guys wanted to see a quick demo here. So this is a wipe away painting that I've got on the screen there that I was interested in. You can see the reference. I don't know if anybody recognizes that painting, if I did that in class before or not. Maybe not. But Linda asked why I fell out of love with it. And I think that really what I liked about the reference is the tree forms, the interesting negative shapes. And then in my wipe away, I just don't have those. They're gone, right? They just look like bulbous, boring, uninteresting trees to me. So what I'm going to do is to try to bring back what I lost, and that is the interesting shapes. And then also, of course, bringing in color and depth. So we talked about, picking out different elements from the different things, the use of light, color and shadow, the drama of shadow.
Can I ask, is it on a hillside or is it just the angle of the?
No, it is on a hillside, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And that's kind of what I like too. I might even play that up a little more. I just like the kind of interesting flow. The foreground is kind of stagnant. It's interesting with the movement and the texture, but I might push that a little bit. And you can see even in my underpainting, I was kind of hinting that maybe a bit of a path, maybe not a worn path, but maybe somebody's walked through that, whether it's deer or people have walked through those tall grasses. And Queen Anne's lace I really like. So when I'm looking at it again and thinking of all these different things, the drama of shadow, interplay of colors, composition and movement, texture and brushwork, atmosphere and mood, detail or realism, if I want that, emotion and story, unique perspective or style, balance and proportion, natural outdoor light, symbolism and narrative, and mood. So I can pick a couple of those that I really want to lean towards. I think that, we didn't even talk about like negative and positive shapes could be a whole nother thing that we talk about. Because I think that the tree forms, giving those negative shapes will make it much more interesting. I don't have to copy that reference. I could completely change up those colors. And, we just saw that in the work we were looking at by so many other artists. And what is kind of the mood or the story that I want? And I kind of like the idea of kind of getting through those tall grasses back into, and then you see there's a bit of a clearing between the tree lines, and kind of inviting the viewer back into there. I think I'll paint it a little bit on the looser side. And then we've had a lot of questions about, okay, I've done a wipe away painting. Now what? Right? So I can even mix my styles. A wipe away painting doesn't have to stay thin and transparent. Right. I can go back into a more impressionistic style. I can go back into broken color. I can do whatever I want with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my sky, because that's really what's bothering me. These big bulbous shapes are uninteresting to me. So I'm going to get in and I'm going to carve away. I also talked about this as kind of being a bit of a focal point that I would like to lead the viewer back into. So how do I make this possibly beautiful or interesting or worth trekking through these tall grasses to get to? All right, and then, yeah, if you don't mind muting, unless you're asking a question, that'd be great.
Michael, Fadi just said that guy's name is pronounced Artine. Artine. That's how you pronounce his first name.
Oh, great. Thank you.
And it's pronounced like the Rahovi.
Artine Rahovi. That sounds a lot better than all the 5 different ways I tried to say it. So thank you. So I'm thinking about the sky first. That's going to dictate the colors in the rest of the painting. And so what I have is kind of my typical palette. I've got titanium white, cadmium yellow light, Indian yellow, quinacridone red, ultramarine blue, manganese blue hue. And then these two browns I've got are a transparent brown oxide and a transparent red oxide, which is a new color to me. And then all the rest of these are just leftovers from that great big commission painting I was working on, including this gray and all of these kind of grays over here. And I just, during that break, just was kind of cleaning my palette. Some of the colors are getting a little bit on the crusty side, but that's okay.
Michael, I have a quick question.
Yes, please.
Is this a very dry painting? Did you do this a while ago?
Yeah, it's at least a month ago.
Are you gonna, this is a question I always am asking myself about when, at what point do I need to put something like a Galkid on the surface? Will the paint always stick, and when will it won't? And when does it not? Do we have any guidelines on that? Yeah, you know.
I don't really. I'm just going to paint directly with paint, maybe a touch of paint thinner. But if I had used medium in this,
Yeah.
like a Galkid or a Liquid or something, I would probably need to add more to it.
Okay.
But because it's just paint and paint thinner, I'm feeling pretty good. And it's pretty thin on. There's a little bit of texture right there, but it's really quite thin. So
Okay.
yeah, that is a good question. And it is something where I've been surprised enough times when all of a sudden the paint's not sticking.
Mhm.
But I find if I use a medium too early in the painting, and it's like a slick medium, then sometimes I just, without adding more medium, it just doesn't want to adhere.
Yeah, and I tried using the Galkid recently on a pretty dry older painting. It was like several months old. And I did not like what that did to the feel of the paint going onto the surface. It was just very, I don't know, sticky. I didn't like it. So I
Yeah,
was wondering, yeah.
it can be tough for sure. So that's why I don't use mediums hardly ever.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
And if I do use a medium, yeah, then I'm just gonna probably use more and more of it, or yeah. So I'm gonna gray down this sky a little more than I
Sure.
have.
I have another question.
Please.
So the focal point is right in the middle. Yeah. So a lot of times you say don't put it in the middle. So I'm just curious about your decision, how you came to
Yeah,
that.
this would be this is the middle right here.
Okay, I can't see. Yeah, okay, because of the angle, it looks centered.
Right
Okay,
here.
thank
I'll
you.
straighten it out for just a second. And I don't know if that helps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nope, good question. Yeah, and you can put it in the middle, just you'll be fighting against it for movement and balance a little bit. So, and I'm going to take that color to here. To there. And I want to get it to kind of a blue. All right, so that gives me my sky kind of. I think I'll be happy with that. We will see. But at least it gives me kind of a starting point. And I just didn't want this bright, bright yellow that's in the reference. I don't care for that personally. So now I'm just going to kind of think about recarving out some of these shapes. So that, I'm going to get this into a negative, carving into it. Because I'm going to go ahead and be making little marks, I'm just going to go ahead and use a littler brush here for a second. I'm really kind of trying to decide what are some interesting shapes I can get to. So it'll start off a little bit slower just because this is kind of the thing that I liked about the initial image. I don't care for the placement of it. The really interesting trees are way over here. So I'm kind of going to try moving them in or using some of those shapes that I like and bringing those towards the towards the viewer or towards the center of interest.
Michael, on your reference, are those trees on the right?
These darks,
Yeah,
mostly bushes, which is kind
no,
of
just those tall things.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're trees that are way back there in the distance. So those are some big, tall, they're probably the tallest trees in the image, but they're far away. So I have to decide, do I want to just get rid of them and I can use their shape a little bit and just change them into something that reads a little easier. Yeah, maybe I'll just get rid of those trees so I'm not confusing. I'll keep it a little simpler. All right.
Michael, we used this photo like 2.5 years ago.
Okay, I was wondering. I thought I had. So maybe
is
that's
that
how
how
old. Go ahead.
painting? Wait a minute. Is that how long you've had this painting sitting around?
It could be. I've got stacks of them.
No, he finished the one that we had in class.
Oh yeah, I did a big version of it,
Yeah.
like a 24 by 24 or something like that.
It was the wipe away. And I loved it. And that's one of my best paintings, I think.
Oh, good. All right, I'm using too soft of brushes, so I'm gonna look for something I can actually lay on some paint with here. Couple little workhorse brushes here. Sorry guys, you're about to get beat up. So these 3 dots I'm already seeing as too redundant, so I'll have to do something about that.
Say that again?
Oh, these 3 dots over here,
Oh,
my little sky holes, are a little too heavy-handed, so I'll deal with that here in just a bit. Sorry about that big cast shadow on the underneath the palette. This is kind of a slimmer profile board. It's only 1 inch, so it doesn't stick out as far. Sometimes I'll put another something behind it. So yeah, I don't quite love the tree shape. It's almost too interesting and too kind of pokey, but we'll deal with that here in a little bit. Now I can step back in and continue to kind of carve out these shapes, getting back to some of these colors that I've saved a little bit. I'll go ahead and grab a Q-tip or two just to move that paint because it's going to bother me so much. So even just in the design, I don't like what I did there. So let's just pull up some of that paint. Soften some of these edges a little bit already, just to push them back. I'm already getting nitpicky, so I'm gotta kind of like go, it's okay, you can paint over these trees. I can come back in and give them good shape and good form here. So I don't need to be so precious, make them so perfect. So I want to give us a reason to get back to this area, right? A bit of a reward, I hope. So I'm going to try to make some kind of a beautiful color that reads as distance. Figuring out where my trees and things are overlapping. And this is a big experiment here. See if these lighter, slightly warmer colors can read kind of as rolling hills back there. So those purples were meant to kind of represent trees. So I kind of want it to feel like there's fog back in the valley a little bit. Can probably darken up some of those trees just a little bit more. But I think it's really going to help me to figure out the colors in the rest of the image if I kind of establish kind of what's happening with my light and my space, sense of distance. You can see I can kind of pick up the color a little bit, and I can almost visualize it, what it's going to look like, hopefully a little bit as I put it down. So hopefully that just opened that up, and now it really feels like we're looking back deep into something. It might be too light. I can always come back in and kind of darken that up a little bit. But I can also just kind of let it sit and see how it plays.
Already the purples and the grass and the trees are popping.
Yeah,
I don't know if it reads as purple in the foreground in the grasses, but they do on my screen.
Good. Yeah, there's kind of some darker, cooler purples and stuff in there. And I can decide, like, how much should I really try to lock this in without having, a lot of the knowledge that I'm going to be getting as I paint through. All right, so now what I'm going to do is come in and get my kind of reestablish some of these darks and maybe figure out some of the darks in here. So I'm just going to mix up a pile of dark. I'll just use some ultramarine, some of my browns. And I can decide, do I want them to be almost black if I put it on there? Is that too dark? Would I rather push things back like there's a little bit of atmosphere even between here and there? Or do I want the atmosphere kind of sitting back in that opening? There is no right answer. Let's try some of these darks in the foreground, kind of in the shadows of these grasses, and just see how they play. I'm just putting down some notes so that I can have something to kind of compare against. Also kind of thinking goes here, here, disappears behind some tall grasses a little bit. Goes back to here, maybe reappears back here a little bit. So it's just, hopefully we'll keep it fairly subtle, but what is that movement that I would like to convey, to hint at even? So that makes me think that this dark, if I put it here again, is too dark, right? All of a sudden these things flatten out. So I'm going to lighten my darks in the trees just a little bit. So I don't know if you can see the difference here. I'll put it beside it up here.
yeah.
and here.
That's better.
Yeah, it just feels like it should lay back a little more. Then I get to decide how much information do I want in these shadows? Do I want them more like silhouettes and solid forms, or do I want some information in there? And I'll probably have some, even though it'll be subtle transitions. I want this part to feel like it's a little bit closer than this part, so I'm going to make it a little bit darker, a touch warmer in the shadows. I let my shadows get a little greener as I move up. Looking at where the bottoms of these are to make it feel like hopefully they're kind of going up this hill a little bit, kind of getting a little further away from us, whereas these are kind of in a line across the top or just before the top of the hill. You'll notice too that I will keep these other colors, right? I'm not just mixing all into one pile. That way, if I need to come back in, if I want to carve out more sky holes, if I want to, I can, I still have some paint left. It's nothing worse than realizing you want to go back in and fix an area and you can't remember your colors or your values as quickly. It just kind of saves time. It does feel like I'm wasting paint sometimes, but I found it to be pretty useful. Now I can bring a little bit of that warm sky color if I want.
I have a question, Michael.
Please.
You just changed to a lighter color. Did you change brushes? Did you just wipe the?
No, I'm just wiping.
You did not stick your brush in any Gamsol or anything.
No, because all the colors are mixing. If I wanted to go back into the sky, I would definitely want a clean brush. But
Okay.
because all these colors are all related, I'm not as worried about that right now.
It helps for the harmony.
I feel like it, and
Yeah.
it helps with the laziness.
I think you're going to end up falling in love with this scene here. It's
You're optimistic. I appreciate it.
pretty nice.
It's called transformation.
Yeah. It already looks so nice.
All right, I just need to mix a big pile of this color because I keep running out of it. So I'm just thinking that there's warmer light coming from this side. There's gonna be cooler light reflecting onto this side from the cool part of the sky. The light's coming, raking across. None of this is in pure light, at least not in this current iteration. So all the light's kind of going through that valley, kind of behind it. But I still have a warmer side of the sky and a cooler side of the sky. So when I'm top lighting, I want to think cooler over here, warmer facing to the right. I'm kind of falling back into my old tricks here. This is all just kind of a big bunch. So I might be able to come back in and rethink some of that out, carve back in with sky holes. Again, it's not only, it's not a single direction. I can go back and forth with it. All right, so now I've got this kind of transition in here. And I'm gonna, I'm just kind of covering areas right now. I'll come back in and refine and like I said, maybe get some sky holes here, maybe reshape this a little bit. Bring a even smaller brush or a brush with a fine end. This thing is like painting with it's just really beat up. So I'm not getting any fine lines or anything. It doesn't even flatten back to a good shape. So might be wrestling a little bit with this brush, but we shall see. All right, so I've got this kind of transition. Like, what do I want to happen as we're rolling back? I'm going to kind of try to create an in-between transition between where I want it to come towards the golden grasses and these cool. So let's see. I can find some colors that might work for that. All right, say goodbye to our reference because I need more mixing area. All right, so I've got all these beautiful golds and colors down here, but the interesting thing is I got to keep them cool enough that they don't feel like they're being, fully illuminated, but light enough that we know that it's wheatgrass. So painting things that are really light in shadow can be a trick. So you start with a fire,
And you put it
burn
out.
the field down. I'm going to start neutralizing that color.
Not
So add some
written.
brown, add some blue. Let's just see where we get. So I'm just going to think kind of a big mother color pile here. Still's reading really warm. Let's add some of the white and gray here and just see what happens. And what I'll probably end up doing, because this pile is getting pretty big, is separating it out so that I'm not just mixing all my colors into this pile. Definitely a color I can use. It's kind of a nice mid value, but I want a more gold. I guess that'd be the right blonde. Maybe blonde is a better word. Also, sometimes by pulling a pile of color away that I'm like, well, that's not quite right. And then when I'm mixing the color, I can see what I'm doing, what changes I'm making. So this is feeling a lot closer. I'll save some of that. Because I do have the shadows within the grasses and things. So I'll be able to come back and use these colors, whether I need to add a little blue or green to them or whatever to darken them. But do you guys kind of understand like the difficulty of making bright bright grasses here, but that are pretty much mostly in shadow? I could illuminate a little, and I could illuminate the side of this tree, which might add some interest, just changing my reference. Because I think this reference was taken before the sun had actually risen. So only the sky was kind of getting lit up, and then that reflected light from this dome of the sky. All right, feeling much better. I'm going to save a little bit of that. Let's see if I can get away with adding a little more yellow and a little more white. This might get too sunny. So I'll bring up the reference again so you guys can kind of see. So it's a bit yellow compared to this. So I can bring in some red again, which I was just wrestling to get away from. And again, it doesn't need to be the exact color. So I can also look at how do these colors all play together, right? Is that too big of a jump, too odd? I think that's starting to feel a little better. So let's look at this transition now. It's going to start getting a little redder, a little more strawberry blonde, for lack of a better paint name, as I begin to bring it forward. Let's go ahead and get into some of these warmer variations of it and just see how they play. So you guys seeing a subtle shift from warmer to
Yeah.
cooler?
Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of obliterating that kind of, there's a bunch of beautiful colors underneath here. So I may be coming back in with a scrubby brush and kind of bringing out some of that texture. Or a smarter guy would take a step back and grab a rough brush, maybe. Let's just see what that does. Maybe this is what I should have been using the whole time.
Yeah, the bigger texture seems to bring it forward.
Right, yeah, and then I'm progressing towards slightly warmer colors. Normally I would paint from dark to light, but I think I'm just going to be drawing in some of those darks. I'm going to take a little bit of the warmer one I have, bring it over here, add a little purple, but it has that density. I'm going to try to see what happens when I put that along the tree line a little bit as kind of a transition color. Kind of like that.
It's a special brush. It looks good. The purple looks good along the tree line.
Right, because I don't want just so stark of a transition, right? I want a little bit of a gradation. And I kind of like that little, it makes that other color underneath it all of a sudden look a little bit greenish, which kind of
Yeah.
hits the coolness of it, hopefully. Which makes me kind of like this color that we just mixed. So I'm gonna make a bigger pile and use it to add some texture, but texture that's not quite so close. You gotta be careful with this brush because it wants to make the same mark over and over and over. So I gotta turn it, lift it, gotta dance with it, if you will. Let that get even a little warmer, but I got to be careful as I'm warming up my colors. Again, that I want it to feel like it's not being illuminated, right? Again, unless I change my mind, I can definitely raise the sun up, illuminate the sides of these trees, which would make it have a lot more impact. But do I lose kind of the subtle, soft beauty of it? Starting to think a little bit about the directionality that I kind of want the viewer to take. Kind of hinting again at a not quite a trail, but a beat down grasses, I guess, or, you guys have all seen that, right? Where somebody's walked through tall grasses and you can kind of tell which direction they went, from all your tracking days in the Old West.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And little animal trails going off.
Yeah, you can definitely see, like when you're hiking along prairies and stuff, you can go, oh, this is the deer crossing.
Yep. Turkeys even follow each other on a path.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. So I'm just making up variations on kind of these darks. You see me adding little bits of color here and a little bit of color there. So hopefully getting some variation, but I also don't want it to be polka dotted. See how I've got dot, 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 dot. And this line here that's kind of a little overbearing. It's definitely a shift from the golds to these purples. So I got to be aware of all of that. And got to kind of remember too where I wanted that trail feeling. And maybe I should not worry about sculpting it so much as just giving the feeling of it. Still seeing my polka dots, so I'm gonna try to get rid of those a little bit, unless they're intentional. Good news is I've got a whole bunch of this light color still. Didn't get rid of all that, so now I can bring this, merge this transition a little bit. Hopefully. Oops, I'm going to change brushes really quick because I actually want a little bit of line of more dark up here before I come back over it with some lights. So I had them going here, here, so it's right about there. And all the way back to maybe kind of about there. Maybe I should even bring it lower. Let's play that dark one more time. It's like thinking about the creek, right? With tall grasses, how does it disappear, reappear? But also thinking about, oh, it's on a hill. Also, these grasses aren't, they're not completely gone. They're just being trampled on. I feel like the beginning of something is starting to show up here. A smarter me would have maybe put the design in and then came back across with the grasses a little more purposeful, but kind of feeling our way through it a little bit.
You're very insightful and smart. Called painting.
There we go. So I just need this turn. So I'm going to take, and this might even be a little bit of a focal point here. So I'm going to make it right about this high. Bring down some of these darks just a little lower. So does that begin to kind of tell a little bit of the story I'm trying to get with the grasses?
Does.
Yeah.
All right, now I can come back and reshape those with these preserved paints because I don't want quite so strong. So I'm just going to kind of come in, cut back in a little bit. I also want it to disappear here, reappear here, disappear here. Oh yeah, see how that just laid down a little bit there? Aha. Just got to trust myself a little more sometimes. There's so many things I got to do. I got to be patient more. I got to trust myself more. Sometimes I got to just go for it. Other times you got to kind of sneak up on it.
I think right down front, it needs to be a little bit darker.
Down in this area or?
Yeah, right in there. Because then we'll jump right over that into the middle of the painting and look
I was
around.
actually thinking about going even lighter and just making it so it's like a thin path
That would be good.
versus this big kind of mud pile here. So yeah, we'll try it and see. But yeah, you can see I've been kind of staying away from it a little more.
There you go.
Wow.
So let's see.
It's almost like you're standing on the edge of a little bit of a clearing, and then you come up against these grasses, and then you try to wade your way through it to the view.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was. I was walking along a path in a park. I just want to see how slim can I make that trail. That was probably way too big of a jump. Let's see. So these grasses will be kind of going up and across a little bit and then laying down a little bit more. These are delicate little deer that made this trail. Not a moose trail.
Oh, I can see him now.
Yeah, this is the deer from Brent Cotton's painting. Standing up behind the clouds. Delicate little guy. I'm going to do the least exciting part about being a teacher and painting on video, but I'm going to step back for a minute and observe. The one thing I don't do enough of when I'm painting in class here. But I do kind of like the feeling already. I think what we could do is bring in some cool blue grays and stuff to kind of harmonize with it. But I have a feeling, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't feel like these blonde grasses are too warm. Like I feel like they feel okay as if they're in the sun or in the shadow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it looks really, you're getting the nice feel of that pathway with the dark shadow at the bottom of the taller grasses, and then the ones lying down are light. It's defining it very nicely.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, and thank you for saying that.
Mm-hmm.
It's setting up some nice movement through the painting too.
Yeah,
Definitely.
a lot of interest to the foreground.
Right,
Yeah.
and it kind of hopefully echoes this shape a little bit too.
Yeah.
And then maybe I could bring some opposing shapes, and I could even bring a cloud, even though you guys wouldn't see it up in the shadow. Here, I can do that really fast. I apologize again for the shadow. Don't know if I raise it up. Oh, that's as high as it's going to go. I'll just might get back to some of the underpaint a little bit and just kind of use some of that pinky orange that's in there. Just create a little bit of movement in that sky. Yeah, you kind of can't see it in the shadow, but I'll show you here in a little bit. But yeah, it's still, you know, in the design phase, right? I'm still just kind of feeling my way through this painting. I'm all of it's susceptible to change. And I can definitely, you know, I could grab a brush that can have a nice edge, and, you know, I can come back in and start, you know, putting in actual grasses if I want. But what I want to do is step back, even though I said I was going to here. So let's set you guys up so you can critique me and tell me what you're thinking. I still think this shape, oops, I just kicked the tripod. Sorry, guys. I still think this is almost now too strong. Like I played it up too much. So I'd like to kind of subdue this, but I do want that sense of motion. And then this became too lumpy, too solid. So do I bring something up above it a little bit that I can add some wispiness, or do I cut back in with some sky holes into here? So think about that. I'm stepping back, looking at the painting from across the studio.
For me, I think instead of bringing the right side up, and the tree on the left doesn't bother me. I think it's the line at the bottom of the clump at the right. It's like this black line.
Comes down too far.
Well, it's just a dark line rather than, I mean, maybe you can have the grasses cut into it a little bit
Yeah.
more or something.
No, I think you're definitely right. Yeah. And it creates a weird triangle.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
It's
the
just-
grasses
it's
could
just-
help with overlapping shapes.
Yeah, it's just a little bit too solid. I feel like the grasses, there's such a nice soft edge on the left-hand side with the tree that does not
Yeah.
bother me, that bothers you. But then on the right-hand side, it's just like there's a line and it's just too hard an edge. And I think if you could have the grasses be softer and maybe make a little more inroad into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
if
think
those
you're,
grasses are as tall as they look, you wouldn't see as much shadow underneath the trees.
you guys are all correct.
What they want. We want a tree. We want to see what I can find.
There you go.
Ready. Better.
Nice.
This part now a lot better. Let's add a little light to it under the bottom, so it feels a little. And then let's do that same thing here, I think.
Yeah. And maybe a sky hole or two, or, just build down into a little bit. I think that makes it more of a supporting player.
Absolutely. No, good feedback. And it ties it in. It doesn't feel just blocked on there. as much,
Right.
hopefully.
Yeah.
A little strong. I'll come back and knock those down a little bit. All I'm going to do is just soften these. The sky holes feel really cut out right now, so I think that's a big part of it for me. So I just soften them. So I'm just taking my brush, cleaning it, and just using kind of the paint that's on there. So hopefully kind of created a little bit of an S turn here. I'm kind of looking for that. I'm looking for a little bit again of the dance of it. I don't know if I should cut into here a little bit. We'll see what happens if it makes it too busy of too dump, bump, 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 but let's see what happens. I think I kind of like that.
I do.
It's funny how little things sometimes can really, again, just looking for that movement.
And maybe even the bottom, right, where there's that kind of point.
Here.
No, on the right-hand side. Down at the bottom of the dark part. It just kind of comes down. It just looks like a triangle.
Oh, right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, not extreme. It's just a little tiny bit. Ah,
That's what we want. We want, as we're working out things. Sometimes it's just a feeling.
yeah.
I don't like those two sky holes that are exactly the same right above where you were painting, right there.
Yeah, I haven't
Something
softened
has to
those guys
change.
yet.
I don't know what, but something has to change there.
Yeah.
It's like a boogeyman looking at me.
Ah,
There you go.
Just soften them down.
But they're
And
still
what's
the same
nice,
shape.
what's nice though, as you kind of come through and soften them is all of a sudden they don't look like actual holes so much as the leaves getting thinner.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Now I don't like this shape right through here. So that's what happens as you fix one area, all of a sudden another area begins to reveal itself a little more. You know, it's almost sometimes dealing with it in order of annoyances. What to do though? I'm trying to figure out what shape. I'm almost thinking I could. I don't know if you can see that. I kind of want to just chop this tree down a little bit here on this side. So I'm going to come through.
You had a photograph of the before and now the after to see side by side.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, we can grab it from the beginning of the video.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So let's put some color on there now. So what color? It's kind of the light blue. Comes across to the lighter yellow.
That was a good change.
Just kind of cut in. And again, I want it to kind of lift
Yeah.
this direction. Okay. Well, I think that might be a decent stopping spot because now I can let that tack up a little bit and come across and lighten up some of the grasses, darken some of the grasses, and give myself a chance to kind of study it a little bit. I think there's still definitely some things I can do, a lot of things I can do. But that was a lot of fun. So you see how I can kind of, and I was maybe a little heavy-handed with some of the colors early on, especially in the trees. I probably should have stayed thinner with my darks because they're pretty thick. So I may even come in and remove a little bit of that paint so that it's a little more workable. But yeah, I think it has a decent sense of movement, and it kind of invites you back towards whatever those fields or hills and stuff back there. The color combination is kind of nice. Oh, let me get the shadow off there.
That's great color.
Yes,
It's lovely, Michael.
yes, it is.
Thank you. So what I was doing was inviting a little bit of the pink back up here. That's kind of the underpainting. I'll do it a little more.
But I like the sky. I like the
And
transition.
that way you get a little bit of movement. So it's not only just
Yeah.
horizontal.
Mhm.
Wow.
Very nice.
So is that removing some of the dry paint?
Yeah, no, the wet paint back to the
Okay.
kind of pinkish underpainting.
Beautiful. I love
Right.
that.
Cool. Well, yeah, now I'm back in love with this painting and can't wait to keep working on it. Maybe tomorrow, maybe I don't know what I guess I should kind of start my final project too for the class. So if anybody has any strong recommendations, otherwise I'll pick something and try to incorporate. Yeah, so maybe what I'll do is start with a wipe away next week, and then the following week color that up, and so you'll see all the different stages with the gradients, the chromatic grays, and kind of the broken color. So we'll use all the different things that we've learned, besides probably glazing. We just won't have time for glazing unless I do it with acrylics first.
Yeah, great.
Very
That's good.
I have a question before you sign off.
Please.
All that paint that's still on your palette, when you close up for the night, what do you do with it? Do you cover it with saran wrap or something?
Sometimes I have a big Tupperware, one of the stay wet palettes for acrylic painting.
Yeah, the Masterson. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just I have like 4 of them now, And so I just use one of them for my oils, and I put on a little piece of cotton, I just put a couple drops of clove oil on the cotton and drop it in there, and they seem to stay pretty good. Clove oil must just cut the oxygen inside of it or something.
Yeah, good. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think
sometimes
that-
I'll put that whole box into the freezer. There's been times where I've just filled the box with water so it's higher than the paint, and then drain it out, which is kind of weird feeling to me, but can work if you're just using oils. But yeah, I use saran wrap. I have a thing of saran wrap in my drawer. Otherwise, you can also just add a drop or two of oil, whatever oil you have, safflower, whatever oil you're using that's in the paints. You just add a couple drops of that to the pile and whip it up, and then it'll stay wet for at least a couple days.
Good. Well,
Great.
thanks. That was a great
Thank
demo.
you guys. This was fun. There was a lot we covered today. So thank you for being patient for that very long presentation. But I think it was such an interesting question. Let me
Will you put Queen Anne's
do it
lace
so I
in
can
this
see
one?
all of you guys. What's that?
Will you put Queen Anne's lace in this one?
I think so. I mean, that was one of the reasons I took the photo too. And you can use those as a directional tool as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am definitely seeing some things like the trees when you're looking into the opening in the background. The tree on the left side definitely has a belly and then kind of a head of a snake. That
Ooh.
the
Yes.
belly.
I was
the
going to
belly
mention
ends-
that.
Yeah, the belly ends right at the top of the mountain in the background.
Yeah.
So I'll have to figure out some shape for that. That's a little more interesting.
Just a lower bush down there.
Something, yeah. I don't know. And it might look like he's sitting down. Like a leg. All right. Well, I'm trying to figure out how to do change my camera angle here. But anyways, like I said, I don't need to. We will sign off. So yeah, it's time to start on your final project. So
Awesome.
hopefully today's notes were useful. Hopefully all the months worth of classes and lessons are useful. And Rajini, are you still here?
She left.
Okay, bummer. I know she wanted some feedback, and I think today might be Rajini's last class.
Oh,
I'm not positive, so hopefully she'll join us tomorrow and I can get a chance to look at her work. But I wanted to tell you guys, beautiful stuff you're sharing. Quick comment, Graham, I just love the your wipe away. It's pretty amazing for being one of your first ones. And Diane Lewis, another knockout painting. And Cheryl Peters, your olive trees are just so much better. I mean, now it looks so refined.
Thank you.
And Bonnie looks like a great beginning of your painting there with the wipe away. And Darlene, hopefully you didn't wrestle too much with that wipe away, but it looks like a great start. And again, you saw how a lot of times I just use them very much as my underpainting. And then Dawn, lovely sketch. I'm excited to see what you end up doing with this. And I'm glad you brought the bottoms of those trees up off the very bottom of the image. I think that was a good choice. Gail is not here today, but her scene looks very daunting. There's so much going on, but I know she can do it. And Joyce, hopefully we can get you on the video one of these days. Joyce, would love to actually meet you. Beautiful scene that you shared with us. Looks almost like Ireland, the coasts of Ireland or something. Really nice and moody and beautiful and good movement. And Linda, you're getting so much poetry in your paintings recently.
Yeah.
And these chromatic grays are really, really working for you.
Yeah, make
Linda Morgan O'Connor. It's so funny when I was looking over your shoulder over on Zoom at those castles, I thought they were rocks. That's pretty cool. Looks nice. It's coming along. So are you thinking you're done with that one, Linda, or?
No, I'm actually thinking that's going to be my final project. I haven't even started on the landscape portion. I mean, other than blocking in.
Gotcha, gotcha.
I'm thinking about it. I may just slide in and use this one and really try and develop it where I
Yeah, well, it's coming along, and I like the kind of softness in the right side of it. But yeah, yeah, got a
I'll
nice
try
mood
not
to
to
it.
overwork it. I guess
Yeah,
that's
yeah, that's the hard part,
right.
right?
Yeah.
I expect every brick. And Lisa, your changes to your the 3 tall trees is so much better. It just looks cohesive and whole, and it's really coming along
Thank you.
really nicely. Is Michelle here still?
I don't think
I
so.
don't know. All right, beautiful, bright, bright colors up in the sky there. And Nyla, are you still here?
Yes.
All right. So great underpainting. Your water, I know that the reference, if that's from the reference that I provided.
It is.
Yeah, that's really, it's a tough one. I've tried painting there. Well, I have painted there a bunch of times, but the water is really still. That's right at the bottom of a beaver dam, underneath a beaver dam. And you can see how it just kind of gets like it fills in weird ways, right? The water doesn't feel like it's running. And so I think you've done a pretty good job of capturing just that kind of flat slack water. But I still feel like you might be useful for you to look across how they're lining up, because it does feel like at the very end, as it's going off into the distance, like it's going uphill. I would flatten that final line down a little bit. I don't know why I'm not showing you guys. I'm a jerk.
Just going fast. It's okay.
All right. Do we see Nyla's painting here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So it's slack water. So everything's pretty flat. This is actually mostly kind of a lumpy field. There's a little bit of a hill over here in the real life. And I don't, you don't need to follow real life. But for some reason, this line, the angle of it, I think just you could flatten that out a little bit. And it won't feel like all of a sudden, because it feels flat. And then all of a sudden it feels like it's kind of going uphill a little bit right there. So what I was thinking is if you kind of took almost like a ruler or something, or even on your computer, and just made lines across, I think you would find, and I know you're still just starting, but I think a couple of those things would help it to lie down a little bit.
Okay.
Great. Phyllis, oh man, so much better with all the color you added. Is that almost like an aerial view? Is Phyllis here? Maybe we lost her.
Beautiful.
I lose everybody to lunch eventually.
My
All right.
ex is that Dog Mountain.
It is. Okay, so it is an aerial view. Good.
Yeah,
That's what it feels like. I just wanted to make sure this wasn't just meant to be a rock. Yeah, and I've wanted to paint Dog Mountain's views from up there. It's so beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, I
understand
wonder.
the end of the water.
That's what it almost feels like. It's going into an ocean or something back there.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. It feels like, I don't know if she shared the reference or not. No. So yeah, if that's the Columbia River Gorge down there, and it would be getting much, much slimmer here. Much slimmer. So that, yeah, I kind of felt like it was going off into the ocean or something back here. So yeah, we'll talk about that with Phyllis when she's here.
Is there
And Regina, you're back.
Yeah, I don't know. Something was wrong with my computer, or I just sent you a text also.
You can just say I got bored and needed to take a break. I get it. All right. So Regina, is this your last class?
No, I'm coming for the next class too.
Okay. So you only missed the last one?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay, good. Well, hopefully not for us, but
Yeah,
if you're
yeah.
going somewhere cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to give you, well, I thought it was your last class, so I wanted to give you quick feedback. Yeah, what do you got going on here?
Yeah, I have given the reference picture. I just had that and I thought I will try with acrylic. No, no, not that.
Okay, so you took Linda's sky and then,
No, 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 not Linda Sky. There is a reference photo there.
oh, okay.
The first one is a
So
reference.
yeah, I like a lot. It gets really, really busy up here, like very spotty.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not positive where your light source is.
Mm,
Because these clouds make me feel like the light's coming from back here.
yeah, yeah.
This cloud makes me feel like the sun's over here. These trees make me feel like the sun's maybe behind me
Oh,
a little bit.
oh. Yeah.
Beautiful trees. I love this transition of colors in here is really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell me, where's the light source?
I thought it is from here, but in the original reference, it is.
Yeah, but you're pointing that I don't know. Oh, or is it where I'm pointing over here?
No, the other way, other side. Yeah.
Okay. So then these warm colors kind of hurt that illusion a little bit. I think you may have lighter clouds under there, but I think by making them yellow and red,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden it feels like the light's coming from here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I should correct that.
Yeah, I mean, you can simply glaze in with a little bit of transparent blue and or whatever. You just kind of lighten that up or
Yeah.
cool it down a little bit.
Mhm.
But yeah, love the trees. Yeah, and I know that you love like really striated, really textured clouds. But I do feel like it's getting a little too spotty for my
Mhm.
liking. It really,
Yeah.
I almost can't look away from this area
Oh,
just because
Yeah.
it's so exciting. It's very much a fiesta going on up there. A lot of confetti and so see if you can still tell us that without
yeah.
so much.
Maybe I should put some sky color in between, which will kind of help.
Yeah. Yeah. So where's the reference?
Before this,
In your thing?
yeah. No. Yeah.
There
That
it
is.
is.
Man, it is lit on both sides. I think the sun is over here.
Shining up.
It's reflected light on the left. And the
Yeah.
direct
This
on
light
the
is stronger under the clouds, and these are much stronger backlit.
Mhm.
Yes, I agree.
And then as I look at these clouds back here, they get cooler to warmer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this bright pink here. So, and do it, you know, and see, these are not nearly as spotty. They are spotty, but I think you can group them a little more. And then you
Okay.
can decide if you like all these little tiny striations.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of up to you. And then, yeah, it is a busy, busy sky. I mean, all these little all these strange little clouds somehow catching light going through all
Yeah.
these holes. I would simplify that personally,
Oh,
but you're much better at, you know, painting very exciting, dynamic skies. I should ask everybody else since we've been talking about looking, but you guys saw the, yeah, and I think if you just warmed up this part of the sky here, it would maybe help tell the story. And that the light's coming across.
yeah. I think I was trying with acrylic and maybe I added too much water in that. That's why the color looks little bit, it looks more spotty and
Yeah, maybe.
yeah, I'm still not very comfortable with acrylics. I had to practice some more.
But it's beautiful. I mean, a lot of really good things. I think most of the fixes are really easy. I think you did the hard work.
Mhm.
Yeah, anybody else have feedback there?
I love it. I love the, I mean,
That's-
even the spottiness doesn't really bother me. But I get what you're saying about maybe smoothing it out a bit so it doesn't like take focus, but boy, the colors and everything are just beautiful.
Yeah, the colors are beautiful. Yeah, I should have given more compliments before digging into it a little bit there, but yeah, the colors are wonderful. Again, I just love this subtle gradation in these trees.
Mhm.
This flatness a little bit, could use a little bit of something in there. But yeah, great job.
Mhm.
All right, so next week, you guys, so my lessons are pretty much done, like my organized handouts and everything. So we're gonna have a lot of time for feedback, which will be great because you guys will hopefully have started. So wherever you are on your final project, please submit it and we'll talk about, you know, kind of what's going well, what's struggling, what questions we might have, what advice we could ask from each other. And next week, I will have a critique or feedback form that we can use. So that will be great. So as far as you guys want to get with your next image, if you want to post your images that you're thinking about just to see if, you know, you think it would be a good idea or anything like that, your references, feel free. And yeah, this was a great class, you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And enjoy your lunch and everything else. Enjoy your warm weather. Well, the snow stopped here at least, but
Mhm. You too.
it's still cold.
You can all come and visit. We'll pitch.
There you
Yeah.
tent.
go.
Yeah,
I like that idea a lot.
the stakes are not out yet. I'm joking, guys.
Thank
All
you.
right, everybody.
You
Okay,
can
bye,
come-
Have
everybody.
a great one. I'll see some of you tomorrow. Hopefully
Yes.
a lot of you.
Definitely.
Great. All right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.